Hey guys, it's Bailey. Welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for tuning in to what is going to be a haul from a recent Ulta purchase back when they had their 10 times points extravaganza, whatever. It's not really a sale, it's just like a thing that was going on. I exercised some self-control, but I did make a purchase that I didn't need, really. I mean, honestly. But I'm here to talk about it today, and if you're new to the channel, first of all, welcome, but second of all, the way I like to do hauls is less just showing and telling and more mini reviews. I've actually been using these for the past like week and a half ever since they arrived, so I've used almost everything more than once. There are a few things that I need a little bit more time to test, but for the most part, this is going to be a haul plus mini reviews and demos. I really want to make it as information-packed as I can. So with all that said, let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's start with a few of the things that I need a little bit more time with since I don't have much to say about them. First up is the Peter Thomas Roth Skin to Die For. This is the No Filter Mattifying Primer and Complexion Perfector. This intrigued me because I'm not a primer person. There are like less than a handful of primers that I like. I'm not a fan of the slippery silicone-y texture that so many primers out there have. I just find that on my combination skin, they hurt more than they help, and my foundation slides off faster than they would otherwise. So I have met more primers that I don't like than I did, but this one was intriguing to me because it promises to mattify, which with combo skin, I'm very interested in. But the thing about it is that it says best use comes with long-term application. So it says gently apply, the directions say gently apply all over the face, focusing on pores, fine lines, and imperfections. Wear as a primer under makeup or alone, and for optimal long-term results, apply daily for 28 days. I have only been using it for about 3 days, so I really cannot comment on long-term effects of this guy. I will say the first few times in using it, I was shocked at how slippery it was. Not a texture I like very much, and I haven't had too much luck in, kind of seeing those mattifying results. So I still want to give it a good go for the next 28 days ideally, unless it like really doesn't work for me. But this will just be a product that I need to come back to. The next product that I need time with is the foundation that I'm wearing here today. It's the Dermablend Flawless Creator Multi-Use Liquid Pigments, very similar to the Cover FX Custom Cover Drops, down to the applicator and the instructions. You're supposed to layer the kind of coverage you want, 1 drop being kind of minimal light coverage, 4 drops being total full coverage, and it even has a little droplet applicator here. It says it's supposed to be customizable, so you do mix it in with things like, other foundations that you have, primers. Maybe I'll try it with that Peter Thomas Roth primer, or if you want to mix it in with like your body lotion to get some light coverage on something like your legs, this can do that too. And then it says to set with the Dermablend loose setting powder, which I actually did not purchase. This was a gift with purchase that came with this guy, so I'm sure they did, or maybe I don't even know if they did that on purpose, but it was a good pairing. I actually already have this, so I haven't opened it yet, but just knowing the instructions, they do say these are best used together. Now this is my first time wearing this guy. I've had it on for about 3 hours at this point, and I do notice it's a little shiny. It is clinging to some dry patches. Well, I didn't even think I had these dry patches, but as I applied it today, it sat weird on some texture that I have around my mouth. It's emphasizing texture I didn't know I had, and it does feel like it's kind of sitting on top of my skin, so I'm not sure if that's a result of applying a little too much or what. I just need more time to kind of figure all of that out. First impressions in terms of how it differs from the Cover FX is that this is a little it's a little more creamy, or like a little more liquidy, whereas the Cover FX is just a little thicker. I don't know if that texture difference has to do with why this is kind of sitting on top of my skin versus blending in, but that's just my first impression so far. And also for reference, my shade here is 30N, at least that is the shade I picked up. I think it's a hair too light, and I say that because I picked up another foundation I'm about to talk about that's a little bit deeper than this, which I feel is a better match. So yeah, more on that later. Speaking of that other foundation, it is the LA Girl Pro Coverage High Definition Long Wear Illuminating Foundation, and in this, mine is the shade Natural. I really like that Ulta has started carrying LA Girl, just for like reliability of things being in stock, and I get to use or acquire like my Ulta points with purchasing these, so was pretty excited about that. And I'm really excited I picked this up because, oh my goodness, for a foundation that's less than 10 bucks, this is insanely good. I have been living under a rock because I've known this thing existed, and I thought, especially given the packaging, you know, it's supposed to be a dupe for the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Liquid Foundation, which I'm not a super fan of. It develops a lot of excess shine, feels like it kind of sits on top of my skin. I much prefer the Makeup Forever Ultra HD Stick Foundation. That is one of my holy grail foundations. So maybe that's what kind of kept me from trying this. I don't know, but boy was I wrong. This is a fantastic foundation that can go from 0 to full coverage in like 1 pump. Seriously, 1 pump is all you need. I way overdid it the first time I used it and will never make that mistake again. But it's just, I really love the coverage of this guy. I do notice it does on my combo skin again, just in case you have, you know, dry or oily. This might not be the case for you, but on my skin, it did get a little bit shiny throughout the day. I really had to make sure I went in to set it. I think the first time I had worn this and I noticed that it got especially shiny, I hadn't set it at all. But once I started using like both a loose setting or a pressed setting powders, things like that, it really took care of it throughout the day. And it even behaves really well if you want to layer a powder over top of it, you know, like halfway through the day or even towards the end of the day to take out that shine. It doesn't, you know, mess up the texture at all if you just want to touch this up a little bit. So yeah, this is like my new favorite drugstore, like affordable foundation. Speaking of the powder that I use to set that foundation that I just talked about, one of them, it's one of these 3 in the trio from NYX. This is 3 Steps to Sculpt in the shade Light. I believe this is in the What's New section, and I have no idea why this caught my eye. Like, the last thing I need is another contouring / bronzing product. I don't know. I can't explain myself. This is not about explaining myself, it's about explaining the product, so let's just get into it. So in here you get kind of a yellow-leaning banana powder, you get a shimmery highlighter, and then you get a matte bronzer. I find I need to use a light hand because overall these powders are really, really nice, finely milled, smooth, not chalky, they don't skip across the skin or anything, but as a result, you're gonna get a whole lot of pigment when you just tap your brush in here. The highlighter in here took me by surprise. When I first opened this up, it gave me disco ball vibes, which is not a bad thing, but I do tend to like a more finely milled highlighter on my cheeks and not something with like a whole lot of chunky glitter. This, when I looked at it in the pan, I thought, that is chunky glitter city. But it's really not when you go to apply it. It just gives this very beautiful, very intense, like this can really be layered to do something serious with your face, but not at all chunky or glittery. And then I really like the banana powder, or I guess I say it's a banana powder. Really, you could use it as a matte highlight across the tops of your cheekbones as well. If you find you overdo it with either of these products, the highlight or the contour, really you could kind of go in with this banana-y shade over here to take some of that away, or you could use it as a setting powder, which is what I like to do in my under eye area. But overall, a really nice trio, and you get a ton of each product. The highlight I'm actually wearing today came from a different palette. It came from this Essence Eye and Face palette. I picked this up because Essence has been kind of killing it in the makeup game lately, been coming out with a few new things, and the more I can find from them, the better, because they're so affordable. So I picked this guy up. It is in Rise and Shine, and it's number 2, so I assume that means there's at least one other of these palettes just in a different color collection. Overall, it's nice. The quality of the powders in this is really good. They're pretty pigmented. I'm talking specifically about the brownie taupe shades here. The thing I feel this palette is lacking is less to do with the quality of the products and more to do with the color selection, but when you really get it up close, you realize that there's not a huge difference between the color of this eyeshadow and the color of this blush. The eyeshadow has a much stronger gold glitteriness to it, not even a shift, but like a distinct gold glitter. And then likewise with the highlighter versus this eyeshadow, this is kind of a softer, more eggshell or like white leaning cream, whereas this is more of a yellowy champagne leaning highlight, but for all practical purposes, they look almost the same when applied. And so I wish they would have switched things up a little bit, because essentially you're duplicating not 1 but 2 different colors, and so you be basically like 4 different shades in this palette, but in 6 different pans. I don't know, I would appreciate a little bit more diversity to give this palette a wider range of looks that you could create with it. So I'll have to go see if there's, like I said earlier, another one of these but in a different color collection, because I could so see loving this and this being a good go-to, because realistically it's an all-in-one, has your eye and cheek at the very least, no lip or anything like that, but all of that in there. And because it's Essence, I mean, pretty sure it's under 10 bucks, which is pretty stellar. Almost done here. Up next are some palettes from Lorac, and they recently came out with 3 different sunset palettes. I got 2, but the third one was out of stock. First of which, let's talk about the one I'm wearing today. This is Mountain Sunset. Comes in this bluey green gradient packaging, and I think this is supposed to happen, but you see these cuts here? When you lift this along the edge, this lifts first. So it's like, you know, I assume that's supposed to happen. Maybe it makes it easier to lift, but what it ultimately means is there is no mirror on the other side here, which I really wish they would have done. I love mirrors on the inside, especially when you have this kind of surface area. Like, what a great size mirror that would have been. Anywho, inside here you get these gorgeous cooler shades. This was kind of irresistible. You get a gorgeous deep hunter green, chocolatey browns, amazing icy lavenders and blues and grays, and then this burnt sienna here, which, I mean, it looks warm amongst the bunch, but it does have an interesting kind of cooler feeling shift. I don't really know how to say that, because when you think copper, it's like, how can you have a cool copper? But there's something about it that just kind of doesn't make it feel out of place against any of these cooler shades. So yeah, really love this, and love that it is a mix of textures. You get mattes and shimmers and a little bit of satin in there. Everyone is pretty accounted for. Then there is the Desert Sunset palette. Again, same sort of packaging, except this one has the, what would we call this, like berry pink that goes into a deep indigo purple. Same sort of packaging thing where it flexes and you lift it up. Inside here, this is easily my favorite of the two, because you get the pinks and the berries and the bronzes and the purples, and oh, this color palette just spoke to me. And what's interesting is Huda Beauty recently started teasing her desert, I think it's called a Desert Sunset palette, and it looks very similar. Granted, hers has a wider shade range. You get a few more purples, you get some oranges in there. This one really stays away from orange and sticks closer to the berries, but hers, this is like a more condensed version of hers, which I thought was very interesting, especially given the name similarity. It won't stop me from getting the Huda palette because I loved the first one, so I'm gonna have to have the second one too. But it was just an interesting observation. I'll compare, maybe when I get hers, I'll compare these two just so you can see kind of side by side what those color palette looks like, if there's any overlap, if you have to have both of them, or if you can kind of pick and choose which one you think is right for you. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. But this, like I said, my favorite of these 2 Lorac palettes. Again, it's a great performer in terms of shadow quality. You get a good mix of mattes and shimmers. Nothing too glittery. You know, the mattes are not chalky or they don't skip across the eye at all. Just totally beautiful. Oh, and this is what I was wearing in my recent makeup don'ts that I still do. This is the palette that I was wearing. A couple of you guys had asked me, and so this was it. And I was wearing it over this. This is a liquid metal long-lasting cream shadow from the brand Catrice, and this is in the shade Daily Dose of Rose. I only picked one of these up, and I'm so regretting that now because these are phenomenal. So they come in this kind of packaging with a doe foot applicator. I find the easiest way to apply this is just going directly on top of the eyelid and then using a brush to blend it out. I am very used to cream shadows, like especially with a cream shadow that has a texture this thin. Very used to it where you'll apply it directly to the lid and you'll blend it out with either a finger or a brush, and they will just sheer out to nothing. They'll just leave a lot of glitter across your lid and not a whole lot of pigment. That is so the opposite of what this shade in particular does. Like I said, I so wish I had picked up some other shades because I'm very impressed with how this applied. I apply it directly to the lid, and when I blend it out, it's like full pigmentation still present and like ready to be there. It lasts really well all day. I use this as a base to that Lorac Desert Sunset palette. Really liked how shadows layered over it, but it's also amazingly beautiful when worn alone because it has a really intense metallic shift. It's going to be one of those shadows that you can apply it alone to the lid, but it still looks very faceted and gives you a lot of depth. So it looks like you're wearing more than just one shadow. Great one and done product, and it's super easy to blend. You know, despite maintaining its pigmentation, it's still very easy to blend throughout the crease to make sure that there's not like a harsh line between where your cream shadow ends and nothingness begins, I guess, if that makes sense. So yeah, would highly recommend picking at least one of these guys up if you love metallic finish or if you love cream shadows. This is amazing. And last is a lip. Pretty fun product, and another brand that I hadn't heard of. I think it's new to Ulta, maybe it's not, and I'm just kind of seeing it for the first time, but it's from the brand Chroma, and this is a lip paint and effects kit in the shade Grunge. Basically, it's this deep greigey blue liquid lipstick, and it comes with a powder or a lip effect, and this is how all of these kits work. You get the liquid lipstick, and then you get the powder to layer over top, and the two transform. Well, the powder transforms the liquid lipstick so that it is this amazing, like soft, well, kind of like a vibrant blue iridescent lip, which I personally never would have guessed, seeing the base color and then seeing this purple iridescent powder. Essentially would not have thought they made the bright blue that it does on the lips, but it's super gorgeous. The liquid lipstick formula is really nice. It doesn't take too long to dry, and then once it has dried, it doesn't get super dry and flaky on the lips. It is a little drier than some of the other formulas out there, but not like super uncomfortably drying on the lips. And then powder is nice as well, and that will dry your lips out a little bit more than just wearing, a liquid lip on its own, but the transforming effect is really cool. However, something I realized when putting these two together is there's really nothing to stop you from taking your own favorite liquid lipstick and layering like an iridescent shadow you already have over top, or even just a frosty shadow you have. If you layer a frosty white to the center of your lips, it could make your lips appear larger. Or if you take like some of the pigments from the Naked Cosmetics Ivory stack, those that have that gorgeous shift where it like looks white in the container, but you can tell it has a slight green or blue or pink shift to it, layer that over top, and it just totally transforms your lip look. So I appreciate what this is, and I do like having this gorgeous, deep bluey grayish liquid lipstick now. Less inspired me to buy more of these kits, and more so inspired me to layer iridescent and shimmery eyeshadows over top, because this is effectively a loose, it's very finely milled, but it's really just like a loose mineral powder. And there you have it. The haul that never ends is finally come to a close. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'd love to hear if you guys have picked anything up from the 10 times point sale, or now the 21 Days of Beauty is on and in full force, so I'd love to hear if there's anything from that you are picking up as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.